Welcome in, you beautiful, wonderful people, to the CHGO Bulls Podcast, brought to you by our lovely people at PointsBet, where you can use that promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I am Big Dave. You can follow me at Bow Sports on Twitter. Will is on vacation doing his thing, jet setting and doing his thing, but he'll be back tomorrow with two shows on a Thursday and a Friday with our guy Mark K in Australia. So that should be amazing, a Bulls HQ show. And our guy Matt Peck is out in Peck Manor with the family, getting a much needed vacation and relaxation. So he's chilling too. So I'm running the ship right now, but I'm not alone because, as you can see, I have the man, I have the myth, I have the legend. He is the Bulls radio play-by-play announcer. He has been in this game over 40 years, y'all. And you can follow him on Twitter at CTS Bulls. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mr. Chuck Swirsky. How are you, sir?
So, Big Dave, you told me before we went on, normally you wear a hat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, this is my favorite hat.
Yes, sir.
But in honor of you, Big Dave, because this is my debut on your show, that I'll leave the hat here. So, but I love the locks, man. You think I got a shot? Probably not.
You got a shot, maybe in the back. Maybe in the back, Chuck.
There you go. I'm good.
Oh man, I told you this before we got on here, and I really mean this is a real honor for me to speak to you. One of my degrees is in radio, so radio is very near and dear to my heart. So you're one of the people I've always listened to and looked up to and revered, man. So it's an honor to get to talk to you today, man.
You know what, Big David? Hey, listen, it's my pleasure. So thank you.
Yes. The first thing actually I want to get into is just your upbringing and how you came up. Because Joey, can I get this graphic from you, Chuck? You put this up, Chuck. It was a tweet you put up.
Yeah.
Talking about your 43 years in broadcasting. You made your debut on WCFLAM 1000, sir.
Yeah.
And I believe that's 1979, if I'm not
correct.
mistaken. Talk to me about that moment, because I love reading things like this because it's kind of a testimony, you know what I'm saying, to about where you are right now.
Well, you know what, Big Dave, number one, that was like my Chicago welcoming home, so to speak, of 1979, because prior to that, I did some internships, one in Cleveland, one back home in Seattle, and then really my first job was in Columbus, Ohio, doing sports talk. But this is a life lesson because I graduated from college early. And when I got my degree, I wanted to get a jump start on my career. Mm-hmm. And of course, one would think, well, great, that sounds wonderful. Well, I sent out tape after tape after tape. In those days, I'm dating myself, Big Dave. There's no such thing as the internet, no phone, no social media, nothing. So when you wanted or heard of a job, or ask somebody to review your work, you had to send a cassette, okay? And you can Google that, folks. What's a cassette? So you send a cassette in a little bubble envelope to the program director or the GM of a radio station, and they would put it in the machine, they'd hear it, and then toss it out. I got turned down for so many jobs. Sometimes I never even heard back from people. And you persevere and you persevere. And all it takes is one person to believe in you, because I've had people tell me you'll never make it in this business. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, it put a chip on my shoulder, and not a chip, but a boulder. And that's why, like, even to this day, Big Dave, you know what motivates me? I go online and I look at all the interviews of Kobe Bryant, where he's talking about like the Black Mamba mentality and how he would step on the floor. And there was a clip I just saw where they played a game against Detroit, and he took the last shot and missed. Didn't make it, Big Dave, but he missed. He stayed, the Lakers were staying over in Detroit. He stayed on the floor for 3 hours after the game, working on that same shot he missed. Now, if we can apply that to our own vocations, whether we're, running, for, a job in broadcasting, whether we're taking off in the business industry. You got to bring it every day, and you got to polish your strengths and really work on your weaknesses.
Mm. So, well, talk to me real quick about that rejection, because I want people to understand, the actual grind it takes to get to where you are in the position and the toughness that you have to have. And like you said, the boulder it kind of put on your shoulder. Can you talk to me about moments of discouragement that you had because of that? Were there moments where you were like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'm giving this up. I should try something else. How was that for you?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. Because, see, I look at rejection as an opportunity. I also look at rejection, and I've been rejected a lot. I mean, you could say, well, have you been rejected even at the NBA level? And the answer is yes. I mean, with certain jobs, you're up for a job, you don't get it. You're, knocking on the door, you want an opportunity. People in higher positions on the food chain say, you know what, we think you're good, but we're going to keep you here, whatever the case may be. The truth of the matter is that I let all that go because I don't carry grudges. I don't let it eat away at me. As a human being, does it hurt? Of course. We all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to feel that we're capable of that job. And if you didn't feel that way, we probably shouldn't be in the industry. But when you're rejected, my faith comes into play a lot. And I'm not embarrassed to come on with you or anyone for that matter. My faith in God is really, really important. He's gotten me through some of the darkest moments ever. And so I know that in the sense that when I am rejected, that there is something that will open up somewhere or better things to come. And that's how I approach it. But I've got to do my job, Big Dave. Yes, you can't expect while you're rejected and that's it. I'm going home. I'm taking my bat and ball and gonna, throw a pity party. You can't do that. You say to yourself, okay, like, what do I need to improve on? How am I going to get better? And I keep thinking of like Walter Payton with The Hill, in the off season, he would do that and do it and do it and do it. And you're probably saying, wait a minute, this is the greatest player in the history of the NFL. He doesn't need to do this. But you know what? Walter Payton said, yeah, I need to do this because there's some kid coming out of school right now, like I did from Jackson State in 1975, looking to make a name for myself. And he's coming after, guess what? Every Sunday they hand out the checks and I want to keep my check.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether it's on the playing field, whether it's in the office, whether you work at a grocery store, you just got to bring that passion every day. And I'm not talking about like 4 days of the week and you coast the other 3. I'm talking about every day.
Daily. Yes, sir. Was it always basketball for you? Was that always the sport you wanted to call, or was that the second one or the one you ended up with? How was it for you?
Well, initially I did a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I mean, even, I did Northwestern football on the old sports channel. I did some college basketball with DePaul and the University of Michigan. I did minor league baseball. I did a lot of things. And then, of course, I filled in for Hawk when he had, he was I think he had an eye injury or he was having work done, whatever the case. And so I filled in 17 games one year. And then the next year, I think 3 or 4. But I mean, like, you try and become as versatile as you can in our industry. And so the sport, though, that really drives me is basketball. I love basketball. My dad died when I was a kid, and there was a coach across the street from where we lived. He was the head basketball coach at a nearby high school. His son was a year behind me in school, and I just gravitated high school, college, University of Washington, Seattle U Games, Seattle Supersonics. I was there. I mean, I love the gym and I love the sport. I mean, I love the sport for what it brings people together.
Was there a player that you just mentioned coming up that you just kind of gravitated to, that you say you love the sport, you love to watch it? Who was the player for you that you just had to watch and he just really inspired you on any level, high school, college, or pro?
Yeah. Well, Big Dave, when I grew up as a kid, the games weren't on all the time. I mean, like the Sonics, they probably had a third of their games, if that, on television. And the other, 60, 50 to 60 games were on radio. And that's really where I love radio because, I mean, you heard the bounce of the ball. And this is long before you had music playing during an NBA game as we do now with all the game ops and effects. So we actually heard, the shoes on a wooden court and a ball dribbling. And it was really unbelievable. But if there was one player growing up that I loved, and I just loved the way he played, and that was Oscar Robertson, the Big O.
Ooh, Big O.
And Oscar played for the old Cincinnati Royals, now the Sacramento Kings, and then later won a championship with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971. But to me, Oscar Robertson was like, I to this day, I don't understand why more people, and I get it because a lot of young people never saw him play, never saw Wilt Chamberlain play, never saw Bill Russell play. But you know what? These are players, Big Dave, that could have played in any era. That's how good they were.
I believe it. Yeah. Yeah. My father, definitely his favorite player. One of them was Oscar Robertson. He loved talking about him all the time. He was an Ohio guy. My whole family's from Ohio. So he loved talking about him all the time and his skill and precision on the floor. And Isaiah Thomas, he taught, Wilt Chamberlain, Sam Jones, Elgin Baylor.
Yeah.
So I got that tutelage and that teaching, coming up, as a kid, just hearing about these greats. So when you tell me those kind of things about the Big O, I just sit here and say, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I got those lessons as well.
Yeah. You know what? You just spoke of Isaiah Thomas. So I saw him play in high school at St. Joe's, and I thought he was going to DePaul to play with his best friend, Mark Aguirre.
Yes, sir.
And I'm thinking, this is going to be sweet. Two hometown kids playing for Ray Meyer. It doesn't get any better than this. And for whatever reason, maybe it was how Bob Knight recruited him, and Isaiah's mom, probably loved Coach Knight, and she probably loved Coach Ray. But for whatever reason, he went to Indiana and won a national championship, and then went to the Pistons with the second pick. The first pick in that draft was Mark Aguirre.
Sure was.
So there you go.
Sure was.
So, I mean, I look at that era of basketball when it came to Chicago in 79, 80 was my – and then just to see the amount of Chicago kids who like either stayed in the state, played at DePaul, played at Loyola, went to the University of Illinois, and it was crazy. It really was.
And it's fun you bring that up. My brother is a season ticket holder for DePaul. He grew up at that same time. He's a colossal fan. He's still mad about DePaul in the Final Four and not advancing.
That was a pretty good Final Four, though.
Yeah,
You had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and you had a really good Penn team.
Yeah.
That was kind of an afterthought. Penn? What are they doing? But they had a really good player in Tony Price.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, my brother would love you right now, Chuck. Absolutely, man.
That was in Salt Lake City. I mean, think about that. You had in that tournament, you had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Mark Aguirre in the Final Four.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. I would love to see that. Can you speak about, and I've talked to Stacy about this before, and he talked about how he almost went to DePaul.
Yep.
And he talked about the team that they would have had with him. And the one player he talked about was Ben Wilson.
Yes.
So I wanted, because you were definitely around at that time and kind of in the broadcast game.
I met Ben Wilson several times. Yep.
Please tell me about what that was like, meeting Ben Wilson and seeing Ben Wilson playing on the floor.
Well, I mean, Ben Wilson would have been, in my opinion, he would have been a perennial all-star in the NBA. He had it. I mean, he had it. There, Big Dave, there are certain players, when you see them, it's the it factor. So when I was in Columbus, I saw the state tournament championship game, and Clark Kellogg was playing for Cleveland St. Joe's.
All right. Yes,
and I saw Clark Kellogg have a phenomenal game. They lost, but he put on a spectacular performance. And I could tell he had the it factor. Let me tell you what, Ben Wilson, he had the it factor, Big Dave. He was fluid. He could get any shot he wanted off. He was going to be a great player. I don't know if he would have gone to DePaul. I think he was probably headed to Illinois. But wherever he was going to go, whether it was DePaul or Illinois or any other school, he would have been an NBA player. There is no question in my mind. And I'll never forget the day he died, because Jim Molinari, who was an assistant with Joey Meyer and DeRay Meyer at DePaul, and I mean, Jim was really recruiting Ben Wilson really, really hard. In those days, there wasn't a limit on how many times you could see a kid. Yes. I mean, there was a player out of Crestview, Florida, Tom Hammonds, who played in the NBA, was a really good player at Georgia Tech. But Big Dave, when I was a roommate with Jim Molinari, we were, sharing a place in Wheaton, and then Jim got married and his wife threw me out of the house. I'm still trying to figure that one out. All kidding aside, he was going to Crestview, Florida to see Tom Hammonds like twice a week. I mean, I said, why don't you just buy an apartment and get a condo? So, but I mean, Jim saw Ben Wilson, all of his games, right in the backyard. And when he was shot and murdered, and they kept him alive, and it was so tragic. And, to this day, when I relive that moment in my head, I think, what a waste of a human life. Forget about basketball for a second, Big Dave. I'm talking about a young man. I'm talking about a young man killed right on the street. I mean, it just breaks my heart for his family. And it was just so sad. Because he would have had an unbelievable future.
Yeah, I love hearing those stories, man, about him. Just speaking to his legacy and why it still is what it is to this day. Why he's so honored and why that number 25 means 25. So much. Yeah, why it still means so much here in the city.
Yes, it does.
Before I move, I wanted to ask you this, because I personally put you, when it comes to radio, I put you in that same vein as I do Jim Durham, as I do Wayne Larrivee, as I did Neil Funk, those guys who could just describe everything perfectly about what is happening on the floor and make you feel like you're right there. But at the same time, being a fan of what you're seeing, but not crossing that line, what I mean? Knowing where that is. Yeah. So I guess the question is, when did you kind of find your stride and kind of know, like, okay, I'm here right now. This is exactly the level I wanted to be at.
Okay, that's you're really good, Big Dave. You really good. I'm not patronizing you. I'm not trying to stroke you up here, but I'm just being honest. So you, when I made the effort to say, okay, where am I at right now in my career? I was at WGN and I was doing play-by-play for DePaul. And the rights were up, the radio rights for DePaul. Management said, listen, we're just not on the same page with the school regarding rights fees. We're taking Northwestern, and Chuck, they're going to bring in Dave Ennett. He's their guy. And I said, great. I love Dave. And I do love Dave. He's a wonderful human being. I said, I totally get it. He is Mr. Wildcat. He's Northwestern. When people think of Northwestern, they think of Dave Ennett. And I agree with that 100%. And I told my boss, Dan Fabian, when he called me in the office and told me that DePaul has one more year to go and that's it. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I've invested a lot of my career in the play-by-play for basketball. I don't want to give that up. I could have stayed at GN for a long time, but I said, this is what I want to do. And again, this is how God works, that 10 days later, I get a call out of the blue, and it's WJR in Detroit, and they're looking for somebody to do Michigan basketball play-by-play and do sportscasts. And while it was hard leaving Chicago for Michigan, but I mean, when the University of Michigan has an opening, that's a pro franchise. And we were in the tail end of the Fab Five. Mm-hmm. And so They had the number one recruiting class with Gerard Ward and Maurice Taylor, and Tractor Trailer came a year later. They had Maceo Baston, and it was like phenomenal. And that's when I knew, okay, like I want to get to the NBA level. And when the Raptors hired me in 98, 99, the first NBA game I've ever broadcast. It's one thing, Dave, to sit with a microphone and practice doing an NBA game. It's another when it's for real. And it's almost like a player in practice. They're practicing and you say, okay, I can handle this. And then all of a sudden the bright lights come on and you're dealing with NBA players who are really, really fast and really, really good. I mean, this isn't like, a Tuesday in the South, in the SEC. This is like NBA ball here. And so I was a step behind all night. I didn't like it. I had never been exposed to a 24-second shot clock. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I've got a lot to learn. And it was a really big time dose of humility. And I was humbled. And I said, okay, like I got to get better. And I listened to tapes over and over and over. And so the second game we did was the final preseason game. We only had 2 back then. And I can tell you what I learned in a very short period of time still applies today. And that's call the game what you see in front of you. And, I think it's important that we maintain the integrity of the broadcast and we give props to the opposing team. I never bury a player. I don't embarrass a player. I don't believe in making things personal, and I don't make fun of players. And, that's just me. Now, for others, maybe they want to go that direction, and I'm not going to, say for them, maybe that's fine. But for me, I can't do that. I think anyone who puts on an NBA uniform, Major League Baseball, an NHL sweater, or the NFL has to be doing something right. I don't care if you're the 53rd man on the Bears team. You're a pro football player.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't care if you're the last player on the roster of an NBA team, and when it's all said and done at the end of the year, you saw 19 games. You still played in the NBA. So I have a lot of respect for athletes getting to that level. And I have a lot of respect for broadcasters who get to this level because it's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. And you've gotten to that level, man. So I know you won't say it, but I'll let you know that.
When I started, Dave, listen, let me tell you something, Big Dave. When I started with the Raptors, I was hoping like, hey, maybe I can do this for 3 years before they kick me out. I'm going on my 25th season this year. I'll be doing my 2000th game in January. And if somebody told me back in the day when opening night of the 98-99 season with Vince Carter making his NBA debut against Paul Pierce, who's making his NBA debut, I'm thinking 25 years later, wow. So I've been truly blessed.
Yes, sir. We are talking with the great Chuck Swirsky. We're going to take a break. When we come back real quick, we're going to continue talking about his broadcast career. We're going to get into some more of that Bulls talk, and we're going to have a little fun with that band they call Chuck Swirsky. We're going to have a little fun also, y'all.
Absolutely.
But first, I want to tell you about PointsBet. You all know PointsBet Sportsbook is counting down the days until the football season with every new offer until the season kicks off from September 8th, y'all. PointsBet Power Hour will unlock a new daily offer from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sign up for PointsBet using the code CHGO to also get risk-free bets up to $2,000. But don't miss out on your chance to get daily access to free bets, boosted odds, and so much more now through September 8th. And that's not all. If you make a $51 or more first-time deposit, you're going to receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of that awesome web content, and you'll even get a free t-shirt of your choice from that CHGO locker, one of these kind of cool shirts right here or something to your liking, sir. You can have one. Download that PointsBet app today. Use that code CHGO to take advantage of this limited time offer, because you don't just bet. No, you live your bet life with PointsBet. And
Nice.
also, Chuck, I got to tell you this. I am a huge music person. It's my thing.
Okay.
I love music, a colossal music fan. So I love going to live shows. And the best way you can do that and save yourself some money while doing it is hitting up my people at Game Time Tickets, y'all. Whether you want to see the Isley Brothers, whether you want to see the Brothers Osborne, whether you want to see the Ball Brothers play each other, Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever for you to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Ever dreamed of sitting in the seat that you thought you could never sit in? 50-yard line, courtside, looking right at Chuck Swirsky call the game, behind home plate, floor seats at the concert? It's possible with Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on seats that you thought you could never buy or never afford. You will not find a better deal this season on Bulls tickets, y'all. All right, and just like CHGO, it's created by the fans for the fans. Guarantees the lowest prices. So if you love us here at CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in that description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. It's Game Time.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, thank you.
So what's the best concert you ever attended?
Ooh, that is okay. I like this. All right. Best concert I ever attended was Kanye.
It doesn't have to be a big name, but the best concert.
No, it was Kanye West's Glow in the Dark tour. So it was when he was at the United Center, and it was Kanye West. It was NERD, who is Pharrell and Chad Hugo and his group, the Neptunes, Rihanna, and Lupe Fiasco. And I didn't know you could do that. I mean, I haven't been to a Pink Floyd concert, to see that kind of live, incredibleness with all the lasers and lights.
Yeah.
So watching Kanye West was as close as I've gotten so far, to seeing that. So honestly, that was the best concert I probably have ever been to. And I've got a bucket list of who I still need to see. Prince is also in my top 3. I saw Prince, Chuck.
You did?
It was a dream come true, Chuck. It was amazing. And again, I saw that at the United Center as well.
Prince loved basketball.
Oh, yes.
He played. He played high school ball.
Yes, man. And yes, it always amazed me because he's not the tallest person.
No.
But they were like, no, this dude could really, really hoop. That means he was a great point guard. And you can kind of see that in his music, by the way he facilitated, in his music.
I read a story after he passed about his love for basketball. And that was when he was in town, like a day or two before, because normally the arena in which they set up a concert is probably the same arena they're playing basketball. They just do a quick changeover. So he would get to a city early, a day or two before. And so if an NBA game was taking place, he would be sitting courtside watching a game and then doing a concert like the next night or two. And he was a huge NBA fan. Big NBA fan. But that's a pretty good description of your favorite. I'll tell you, I remember I saw Stevie Wonder came to the United Center a few years ago.
Yes, I know.
And so I was there. I think his daughter was doing backup vocals. And so like he's doing new material. And for people like me who grew up Stevie Wonder, I mean, I wanted Stevie Wonder.
Isn't she lovely?
Yeah.
Superstition. Yeah.
Golden Lady,
Yes. Oh, yes.
And so I'm thinking, okay, like I'm starting to get a little bit impatient because, and so all of a sudden the crowd's starting to throw, song titles at him. And he goes, okay, I get it, and he starts jamming, and I'm thinking, oh, good. But the best concert I ever saw in my life, and I'm dating myself now, the OJs.
Oh, yes, Chuck.
And
yes.
The OJs put on a concert in Seattle at the Paramount that was like crazy.
Wow.
And I mean, they were in sync doing the,
Oh yeah.
and they were and they would put on the bright orange, suits and the whole bit, and then they turned to green, and it was like, but their production and their performance and their voices were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so like I love that concert, but the energy, whether it's Kanye, whether it's Springsteen, whether it's Mick Jagger, whether it's like Chance. I mean, like
energy.
The energy. I mean, we're talking about on stage. Think about this. You're on stage and you're doing this for 2.5, 3 hours. And probably for some, no break, no intermission, and you're bringing it. And I'm thinking, wow.
The breath control.
Have you seen the Elvis movie?
Not yet. Oh, I'm watching it this weekend. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing with like, I don't know, like how he managed to do this. I mean, he passed away in his early 40s because his lifestyle just got the better of him and the demons. But I mean, like before that happened, and for him to do this on stage, he was doing like 2 shows a day in Vegas, not like one show 4 times a week, 2 shows a day.
It's crazy, man. That is crazy. And he did it. And shout out to him. Stevie Wonder's on my list, Chuck, of people I have to see. He's on there. The Eagles.
I'm to do another turn. Like Elton John just had his farewell tour.
Yeah.
I can tell you what, his manager is probably saying, hey, we made a pretty good bond player. Why don't you lay low for a couple of years and then come back?
Yeah. Everybody loves a comeback. Okay. Everybody loves a comeback.
Well, what about the farewell tour you just had 2 years ago? Well, I thought,
nobody's ever really retired in music. Everybody always comes back. Yeah. All right.
All right. So let's get back to Bulls.
Let's get back to Bulls, Chuck. Let me talk to you about what's going on with this team this year, the Chicago Bulls. As we know, finished with the 6th seed, lost in 5 to Milwaukee, but probably the most fun Bulls season that I can remember in several years. Just the highs of it were really high when it was high. The lows of them were definitely low, dealing with the injuries and things like that. But watching this season, what do you take from this season, being as somebody who sat and called all 82 of those games? What do you take from this past season?
Well, I take the fact that it's great that our head coach and our front office and the players and the culture that's being developed with the foundation. And I mean, I can't say enough about AK and Mark and Billy Donovan. And they let me tell you what, from afar, like I've seen DeMar DeRozan a ton of times since he came in the league as a lottery pick out of USC with the Raptors. It's one thing, Big Dave, to see a player 3-4 times a season. It's another to be around him day in, day out. And DeMar DeRozan is a unbelievable human being, number one. I mean, this guy gets it, okay? It's never about DeMar DeRozan. It's always about what can I do to help another player? And, I mean, what he did with Ayo, going down on an off night for Ayo's jersey to be retired and making that trip to Champaign and then to get back and be at shoot around the next morning. I mean, that speaks volumes about DeMar's character. And it goes beyond that. That's just an isolated, but I mean, I love the makeup of the team. Injuries came in and just killed them. I mean, one thing, Big Dave, if you can't have a healthy roster, and when I say healthy, everyone's banged up by the time you get to mid-April. You've got your knees are barking, your joints are on fire. I get it. But I'm talking about where you can say to yourself, all right, am I 100%? No. I might be 85%, it might be 80%, but for mid-April, I'll take that. But if you don't have your best players on the floor come mid-April for playoffs, you got no shot. True. None. Because you may win a round, but as it gets deeper into the postseason and these teams are really, really good, you're going to start missing players. And all you have to do is look at that year when the Raptors won and you had Durant injured and then you had Thompson injured. A healthy Durant, who knows? Maybe Golden State wins another time. Maybe Durant doesn't leave. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But give credit to the Raptors, because let me tell you what, Kawhi Leonard, he was running on fumes by the end of that series. If they had to play another series with that knee, who knows what would have happened. But you've got to have healthy players. I mean, had Middleton not been hurt against the Bulls, you put Middleton, in another playoff series or two, they could have repeated.
That's true. I agree. Speaking of those injuries, let me ask you about Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Because he is someone, even though he had a great season and an all-star season last year, people forget that man was pretty much injured like a lot of the season. Had the hand injury early on, dealt with the knee injury, later in the season, but
COVID.
Showed his COVID for the third time, showed his toughness and played through all of this and still put up incredible numbers and was an all-star.
All-star.
So what are you looking to see from Zach LaVine going into this season that you probably didn't see last season from him?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, I mean, getting Zach on the floor is really, really important. The availability for all NBA players right now, I think, is something that not only as fans and players want this as well. I mean, players don't want to miss games, but they've got to be healthy. There's one thing about, are you hurt or are you injured? A lot of players are hurt. If you're injured, you can't play. Okay. I'm not saying that, but in Zach's case, he was injured and he played through this because he wanted to gut it out for his ball club. I have complete admiration for Zach LaVine. I think he's a terrific human being, first and foremost. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's going to make another all-star team. In fact, when it's all said and done, I think he'll probably be on several more all-star teams. And I think DeRozan's headed to the Hall of Fame. And I think the whole key for the Bulls this year, because the East is stacked, as we know, and I think the key is going to be health again. And what that roster looks like in April, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that if these players can stay healthy for the majority of time, because injuries are a part of the game, I get that. But Big Dave, if they can stay healthy, I want to see what this club's made of.
I agree, Chuck. One more injury I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about. It's Lonzo Ball. He's dealt with the knee injury since about January, the bone bruise in the knee. It sounds, I've heard reports that saying, there's some positive coming out of it, that he's better than he was in the previous months and further along than he was. But also the report came out that said he wouldn't be available for training camp and he is doubtful for the start of the season. You talked about the importance of health down the stretch. Do you feel that importance is it just as important to start the season with that kind of health, or is it kind of, I can get along with this until we get everybody back healthy? Because the Bulls do have depth at that point guard position. Yeah.
Well, I think, to me, certainly you want players on the floor as you turn the corner for the playoffs. I mean, but see, the Bulls have not come out. So I want to be really, really careful what I say here.
Yes, sir.
Because the Bulls have not released a statement about Lonzo Ball's health.
Yes, sir.
And Jamal Collier is a wonderful man, great reporter. And he came up with that story. Casey Johnson had a story, of course, with NBC Sports Chicago. But the Bulls have never commented on those two reports. And probably, we're going to find out, I'm sure, on Media Day in a few weeks at the United Center what's going on with Lonzo. But until the Bulls make a statement about the timeline, I think it would be foolish on my part to talk about a player who has never been quoted, by the way, about his injury. And I'm not saying he's not hurt or somewhere in between. I just think we kind of need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and see where he's at, where the team's at. And if he can go, he can go. If he can't, next man up. I mean,
that's fair.
I'm not trying to throw it under, but I mean, that's why they have a roster of NBA players.
Yes,
that's why I want to see Ayo. I want to see Ayo make that jump. I mean, I want to see Ayo's offensive game. I want to see where his game is at from here to here, or where his shot is at.
Yes,
because I thought he had an outstanding rookie year.
Oh, I completely agree. That was actually going to be my next question. What was about Ayo, and just how did you feel watching that? Like, I haven't seen somebody come into the league that young, but be that mature as a rookie. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare to have the kind of maturity that he has, and the controlled confidence. It's not egotistical. It's not flamboyance or look at me. It's no, I'm confident in what I'm going to do on the floor, and I'm going to execute it on the floor. Talk to me about that. Like, watching him from game one, Chuck, like, he just kind of shocked everybody when he came out.
Well, I mean, number one, his family, just solid foundation. And then secondly, he was really well coached in college. Mm-hmm. And I think he came in and he probably had a chip on his shoulder, because a lot of people were expecting him to go probably mid-first round to, let's say, number 22, 23, somewhere in that range. And then he dropped. Mm-hmm. And so you're looking at a player who comes into camp and he's probably saying to himself, I'm not doubting my abilities. And the Bulls didn't doubt me because they took me in the second round. And so here we go. Mm-hmm. And I think, the way he got after it and his approach, as you mentioned, his on-the-court mannerisms, and the fact that, hey, coach, you know what? You want me to sit? I'll sit. You want me to play? I'll play. You want me to start? I'll start. You want me to guard? All these point guards. There was a run, Big Dave, where for like 2 weeks he was seeing all-star guards. I mean, the schedule was unforgiving, because it was like one all-star after another all-star after another all-star. Oh, and by the way, you're going to play 37 minutes.
It was a lot to take on, and he definitely took it on.
It is.
He took it head on.
He never complained.
Never
complained, because we would go up to him and shoot arounds. He would get asked all the time, how you feeling? Have you hit the rookie wall? Nope. You tired? Nope. You good?
Love that. Yep. You ready to play? Yep. I love that. Let me ask you about the new rookie the Bulls have gotten, Dalen Terry. I really enjoy Dalen Terry, and it's not even
personality, doesn't he?
Chuck, it's not even for his game. You know what I mean? It's because of the personality. When I went down to Summer League and I watched him when they played the Knicks, when the Knicks were blowing the Bulls out, I'm watching Dalen Terry, talk to his teammates and is telling his guys, why isn't anybody talking? Where's the fire? Where's the energy, guys? We can talk too. And all I kept saying was, this is exactly what I wanted, because the Bulls are very cool. Like, they follow the DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine.
But they don't have that personality in the locker room.
Correct. Exactly, Chuck. So speak to me about that, about Dalen and what you've seen.
Well, I love his personality. He's passionate, and he's a rookie. So we have to give him some space and let it breathe to see his play. The thing that stands out that I do like about him a lot is how he plays angles on defense. He gets a lot of deflections with his wingspan. He has an incredible motor. And again, he's going to be a rookie. So we have to, take a step back and say, okay, before we say he's a definite rotation player, he's got to get his feet wet here a little bit and understand the game. The game's going to come at him, and this isn't Summer League. They don't hand out rings opening night, although they now have Summer League rings.
Yeah, Chuck.
Well, whatever. But just give me the money. You don't need to give me a ring. How much does that ring cost? X number. I'll just take the cash.
Come on.
But I think Dalen Terry was a great pick for where the Bulls got him. Excellent pick.
Yeah, I agree, and I think he also will help lighten that fire under Patrick Williams, who I expect to have really a solid season this year. So,
as I do.
One more question, and I have to ask about this trade that just went down, because now the Eastern Conference is very, very serious. Donovan Mitchell with the Cleveland Cavaliers, making them just really, truly formidable. Talk to me about that trade and about the Eastern Conference. Have you ever seen it this competitive in the NBA?
Well, I mean, yeah. I'll say this, and Big Dave, listen to me, all right?
Yes,
And people don't want to hear this. Because it sounds really boring, but this was a good trade for both teams. Because usually when there's a trade, man, I can't believe Cleveland. Hey, listen, you know what Danny Ainge is doing right now with number 1 picks? He's taking like this. What else can I get? I got number 1. That's what he's doing. He's collected everything. Big Dave, I'll take that hoodie. I'll take that T-shirt. I'll take those pictures behind you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's what he's doing with number 1 picks. Danny Ainge has got 1,012. I thought Oklahoma City had all the number 1 picks in the league. Now you got Danny Ainge. You got seven for Rudy Gobert.
Wow.
And so, the way I look at it, Utah's in a major rebuild. They're doing it the right way. And for Cleveland to put Donovan Mitchell, oh my word! Because I'll tell you what, I love Garland. Darius Garland can hoop, and Jared Allen can hoop, and Evan Mobley can hoop. And Okoro is never going to see the ball, but he plays defense, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. And, Utah got some, I'll tell you what, Sexton, I think, is a better than average player. I like him. And Abaji can shoot the 3. So that was a good, because he was their pick. And so he's going to go to the Jazz, and then they get 3 number 1s and a flip for 2 if it comes down to that. So the way I look at it, it was a good trade for both teams, but Cleveland definitely helped themselves because, Mitchell still has a couple of years left on his deal. Yeah. And, you got Mobley in his rookie deal. Jared Allen just signed a 5-year deal a year ago, so he's taken care of. And, I mean, Garland just signed for the max. So they've taken care of their big boys,
Yes, sir. Absolutely right. We're talking with Chuck Swirsky. We're going to come back real quick after this ad read. We're going to play Pass It On. And I'm going to ask Chuck about those famous dance moves, man. I got questions, y'all. But before we get into that, y'all, Chicago, you already got the best coverage for your favorite teams. So getting fitted out in the best sports gear around. It's only one place to do that at, y'all, and that is FOCO. FOCO's got you covered from Soldier Field to the north side, to the south side. They got hoodies, they got slippers, they got signs, they got bobbleheads, and everything in between. Everything you saw Chuck just pick up, they got it right there, y'all.
Like Danny Ainge.
Yes, like Danny Ainge, baby. They are collecting. They got you. You get decked out like DeMar. You can get fly like Zach. You can look smooth as Lonzo, y'all, with all this apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles. That is FOCO. So if you're looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life, FOCO's got you covered with hoodies, baby, to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. So go check them out. Get on down and check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, y'all, use the promo code CHGO. Get yourself 10% off. Save you some money and look good, y'all. It's FOCO. FOCO. Faux show. All right, Chuck. It's time to play Pass It On, my friend. Pass It On. That's what we're going to play right here. Pass It On. We're going to get to that in a second. But I want to play Pass It On with you right here. So this game that we have our guests that come on, they don't know who our next guest is going to be. And so what they do is they leave a question for that guest to answer. Our guest that we had previously, Chuck, was the great Sarah Kustok. She was in studio with us. Yes, she is amazing. And she left a question just for you to answer. Joey, can we play that for Chuck Swirsky, please, sir? Let's let you hear what Sarah had to say.
So obviously through my jobs, as you mentioned, and in particular the NBA season, travel to a ton of different cities. And I'm coming here to Chicago, and I realize there's so many new places popping up. I feel this way about living in New York. I want to know, wherever they live, give me your favorite spot to have dinner, your favorite spot to have lunch, your favorite spot to have breakfast, and your favorite spot to hang out, kick it. music,
love it.
whatever. Can I ask 4 questions?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yes, you
that's
can.
all.
It's one question with
But
4
I want
subcategories.
to know, like, your home or where you live. Tell me where to go. Tell me where to get the best eats and the best vibe.
Oh, now if anybody I need to get the best vibes from, it's that man Chuck Swirsky. So Chuck, tell me the spots, man. Your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and where's a great spot to kick it at?
Okay, so I'm gonna dial it back here. I'm gonna talk about my hometown of Seattle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I love my hometown, just like I love Chicago. Okay, I love Seattle. So in Seattle, okay, you got to go to Pike Place Market. Got to go to Pike Place Market. And you know that I don't know, you can Google this, but they throw the salmon. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen it. Yes, sir.
And like when I was a kid, like, you know, we would put our names in the hat and we'd pick 2 names. One could throw the fish, one would catch it. And I went year after year after year, and I never got my name picked. And so I've been in therapy ever since.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So there are so many great places in Seattle. I'm going to tell you, if you like seafood, okay,
Yes,
there's a place called Ivar's Acres of Clams, and you eat them like out of a bucket, and it's awesome. Now, I don't know if you're into that stuff, but you know, when you're raised in Seattle, that's what we do, okay? And there are some really neat coffee shops in Pioneer Square, and I mean, I just love Seattle so much.
Yeah, that's amazing, Chuck. All right, so since Sarah left that question for you, you, sir, are more than welcome to leave a question for our next guest. We're not going to know who it is, but whatever question you want to ask about anything, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we have been looking at, you know, talking about sports. We've been talking about entertainment. We've been talking everything. So all of a sudden, you can sit down and have dinner with one person, currently living, one person with a sit down, and they are picking up the bill. Not you, but they are picking up the bill. And who is that person you're having dinner with? So you can look at the menu and you don't have to say, oh my gosh, you mean I gotta, no. You're not paying, they're paying for it. But I want to know, who is that person that you're having a meal with for whatever reason? There you go.
I love that. That is an awesome question right there. I can't wait to see the answer from my next guest that comes on, man. All right, Chuck. I kind of hinted on it a little bit, but I got to talk to you about the smooth moves of Chuck Swirsky. Joey, can we show some of those smooth moves that Chuck has shown over the years and showing us? Now, Chuck.
And another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Hey.
Chuck, I love how into this you are. I love how you've just gone with it. You do it game after game. Where did it start? Okay. Is where I want to know. Where did this begin for you?
Well, you saw that it was an empty arena, and this was during COVID. And so, yeah, as you know, the Bulls were just on life support. They were bringing players in, and AK and Mark were just trying to figure out, like, who can play NBA ball around here. So, as you know, we did road games from the United Center downstairs.
Yeah.
True. And so the Bulls won a game against a really good team. And I was so excited afterwards. I just started dancing in our broadcast studio, and Rich Wyatt, our engineer, decided to tape it on his iPhone. And then he said, I'm putting it up. I said, whatever, go ahead. Next thing I know, thousands of people, it went viral. So, so then, like, the next day or next win, we didn't do it. And people are like tweeting, where's the dance? So that's what, I mean, listen, we're here to have fun. And it's, I'm not doing it at the expense of trying to hurt the opposing franchise, or we're just, for 15, 20 seconds after a game, we're dancing to celebrate a Bulls win. And I love Bulls Nation, and I love the job you guys do, talk Chicago sports, because when it's all said and done, I mean, Chicago is in my heart. The Bulls, I run Bulls DNA all through my blood. So there you go.
That's awesome, man. Have you ever tried to get Bill on one of those videos?
He won't do it. Trust me, I asked him.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, before we get out of here, man, you told us that you've got something coming out. You've got a new book coming out, sir.
I do.
You wanted to talk about, sir. So please, I would love to know more.
I have a book coming out. I don't know the release date because we're in the final draft right now. I'm hoping that, maybe late fall. But I'm excited because we talked about, my career. We talked about my life. We talked a lot about Chicago. We talked NBA ball. We talked about sports in general and some of the people I've crossed paths with. But really, the thing that I hope people come away with this book is that perseverance and positivity and passion and purpose, there are elements that we can apply in and out of sports in our own life that we can improve in our everyday communication skills with each other. And at the end of the day, and I sincerely mean this, it's all about the heart, Big Dave. Everything is about the heart. So in need, it doesn't matter who we are, what we are, where we're at. If Big Dave comes to me and says, hey, Swirsky, man, I need some advice. Do you have time? Always. What do you need? I'm here for you. I mean, that's the way my mojo works.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir. I like it.
And I want to see the beauty of life, and I don't want to deal with darkness. I want to be around people who are energetic and enthusiastic and care about each other and will go through a brick wall for people, and people who are selfless and not selfish, and who can check the ego at the door and say, hey, it's about us, not about me. Because, if this is like, everyone has a vision and everyone has a journey, and that journey eventually becomes a destination point, but it's how we get there, and you do it the right way, because I still believe there's a place in our hearts for kindness and respect for all, not just for some, but for all.
A place for everybody, man. That sounds like an awesome book. When it comes out, Bulls Nation, definitely get on that, man, because that is Chuck Swirsky. He won't let you down. Chuck, one more final question, man, and I meant to ask you this earlier.
Anything, Big Dave?
What is your proudest moment in broadcasting? Not your favorite. I'm sure you have favorite moments, but what is your proudest moment for you in broadcasting?
Well, since I grew up an NBA fan, and I promised myself that I would do everything humanly possible in a professional way, of course. The best moment was February 6th, 1999, my first NBA broadcast, because I cried like a baby after the game. You have no idea how hard it was to get to that level. And my biggest disappointment that my parents weren't alive to see it, because my mom knew how badly I wanted to be an NBA broadcaster, and she had passed away like 15 years before. And my dad died when I was a little boy, but he knew I was a big sports fan, so I couldn't share it with them. But that's probably, if you want to say proudest moment, one of the best moments I've had as a sports broadcaster calling a game was the Kobe 81 game. I was doing the Raptors, and Kobe put up 81, and it didn't matter who was on, Mo Peterson, Chris Bosh, Matt Bonner's trying to guard Kobe Bryant. Matt, I love you, but
Jalen Rose, yeah.
I love Jalen Rose, but defensively, I think Jalen, he was an offensive-minded player, and I'll leave it at that. I love Jalen, but I mean, we had everybody. Mike James is on him. Mo Pete, we had everybody. Actually, I told one of the assistants, like in the fourth quarter, I said, "Hey, listen, you know what? If you need me, I'm ready."
So you got 6 pounds, Chuck. Chuck got 6 pounds to get you, baby.
I said Muggsy Bogues is 5'3". If he's good to go, I can.
Hey, I love it, man. I love it. Y'all, that is radio play-by-play announcer for the Chicago Bulls, Chuck Swirsky, the one and only. Follow him on Twitter at CTS Bulls. Chuck, thank you. This has been amazing for me, man. You are amazing. You were probably the most positive person I've met outside of me.
Yeah, that's good, Big Dave. That's all right. I'll give you the crown, man. You did a great job.
Thank you, Chuck, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening, man. Make sure y'all tune back in tomorrow for that Bulls HQ episode with Mark and Will. But until then, I am Big Dave, y'all. That is Chuck Swirsky. This is CHGO Bulls Podcast. We out, y'all. Peace and love.